Good afternoon and welcome to TalkSports. It is our weekly weekend program where we speak with the movers and shakers of sports, the sportsmen, sportswomen, administrators, coaches, just about everyone who is involved in sports. As indicated on our program this weekend, we'll be taking a look at the budget presentation. That's the estimates of revenue and expenditure, which we also call the budget of Grenada, that was presented in Parliament on Monday, and then the debate has resumed and will continue on Monday. But our focus, no doubt, will be on the aspects as it relates to sports, as I also welcome my co-host in Toronto, Mr. Rudian Silvan. Good afternoon to you, Rudian, and welcome back after a weekend, I would say, a missed weekend.
Yes, definitely. Welcome back to you too. Safe to see you back in New York from your um, mini vacation, but business, if I may put it in a better word. I know it was quick, it's a touch and go,
Yeah.
but it's good to
Well,
see you back again.
it was a funeral, right?
Yeah,
There was
yeah.
an in-law who passed away, and in turn in Grenada. So it was, as you rightly said, it was a quick one, right?
Yeah,
But
in
as
and out.
indicated, yes, so I had the opportunity to attend the budget presentation on Monday, right? And in that budget presentation of probably $1.6 billion, I think, in total expenditure, all right? And in that, there was an allocation of about 240.5 million to the Ministry of Education, Youth, Sports, and Culture, right? We'll get into, well, at some point, we'll probably get exactly what was allocated for sports, right? But that is the line ministry, education, youth, sports, and culture. They have an allocation of $240.5 million. Now, that is compared to 193.9, let's say $200 million allocated in 2023, right? So roughly is about $47 million increase in the allocation, right, for that ministry. In fact, they're saying that is the highest allocation to the education, youth, sports, and culture budget in the history of Grenada. Now, that being said, it's interesting to know, well, what it is for sports, because that is our focus, right? But what happened since then in terms of the presentation budget? We had various members of parliament. We had, given their presentation, and what they did as well is zero in on some aspects of sports. So for example, the member of parliament for Carriacou and PD Martinique also gave his intake. He spoke about, the aspect relating to Carriacou and PD Martinique. The member of parliament for St. Andrew, I always have mixed up with it, but is a member of parliament in St. Andrew. She also gave her bit on that. And then we had the member of parliament, who's actually the minister of sports, the member of parliament for St. George's Northeast, who's the minister with responsibility for sports, for youth sports and culture. He also made his presentation. And there were others who dealt a little on sports, but I will probably want to take highlights from these three in particular, right? Including, as I indicated, the member of parliament for Carriacou. But my question to you, Rudian, is that have you been able to listen in part, whole, whatever, of the budget presentation?
I definitely heard a little bit. Like I said, I was also concerned in terms of sports, wanting to hear what it is, because I know the whole policy, that the sports policy that they have in place is waiting on whatever budget they have get in to kind of put it out. So I kind of was interested in that, but definitely I didn't get to see the whole thing and didn't hear the whole thing. However, definitely I'm looking forward to to hear what you the clip that you bring probably is the same thing that I heard as well in terms of little clips. But then we could discuss that and this and that. But I can say that
Okay, so
there is a like I said, $40 million from the last budget previous years. Um, that is a good thing. But where it's going, it could be good because sports could be, could get a lot more than what they previously get. Um, or it could be allocated to maybe for the youths, or maybe, in culture, we have to wait and see where that extra $40 million will divide it up to.
okay, so let's get into a bit of that. As we indicated, we want to we want to dissect to an extent and look
Yeah.
at and examine specifically on the budget presentation, because what happens sometimes is that a lot is being said, and sometimes the listening span for individuals might be a bit short, so they may not be able to grasp some of what was actually said. And then we need to look at it, listen to it, and sometimes at some point in time, we have to bring their feet to the fire. We
Yeah.
have to remind them of what they promised, what they said. And I think they
Yeah.
need to be accountable. So let's hear what the Member of Parliament for Carriacou and Pidimatic had to say as it relates to the sports allocation of sports for Carriacou and Pidimatic.
Upgrade to the Dover playing field. Mr. Speaker, let me tell you something. The Dover playing field has been in a dilapidated state for a number of years. There's a school, the Dover Government School, that is nearby to the playing field. Back in the days, the school had sporting activities at the playing field. For a number of years, they couldn't because of the dilapidated state. Mr. Speaker, upon me, we started the process of upgrading the Dover playing field. And the intention, Mr. Speaker, is to light it up, put necessary bleachers, and to continue to improve the facilities as we go along. So I'm extremely happy with that. In addition to the upgrade, the fencing it, Mr. Speaker, we improved the cricket turf on the playing field there. Mr. Speaker, the Mount Pleasant playing field. It's another playing field. The preservation, the lands were there, but it was not a playing field. So we're now transforming it. And if you go there now, for those of you who haven't gone to Mount Pleasant in Carriacou, for those of you in Carriacou who have not gone to Mount Pleasant recently, you should take a drive up to Mount Pleasant and you would see the transformation taking place on that piece of land that we are turning into a playing field, Mr. Speaker. So I'm very proud of that. The people of Mount Pleasant has always been go to the NDC, and I know that they are extremely happy for that. Not just the children of the school that will benefit, but the entire community. Mr. Speaker, there are several things that we've done in the ministry in sports related in Carriacou, but I thought it was important for me to also recognize the students that we are supporting as a ministry, as a parliamentary office, that are studying in Jamaica. They have sports scholarships. But special recognition must be given to Mr. Trevor McIntosh and the Carriacou and P.T. Martinique Wellness Foundation for sourcing those scholarships. And of course, as a ministry, as a government, we are also supporting the students so that they can go there, do their best, and come back to help us improve sporting. Because as the Prime Minister said, it's a multi-billion-dollar industry. There's a lot of potential there, and we have to see how we could find different career paths and options for young people.
You're on mute, sir.
So that's Tevin Andrew, the Member of Parliament for Carriacou and Pidimatic, and speaking about the Dover Mount Pleasant in particular. I wanted to start off with Karaku in particular because, you know, Rudian, most times and in many cases, basically they're forgotten, right? And they have been doing pretty well over the years. In fact, you know, just a few programs ago, we heard about the strides being made in Karaku regarding swimming and tennis and all these sort of things, you know. And even when we look at the composition of national teams these days, whether it's cricket, youth cricket in particular, seen guys from Karaku, you know, football, Karaku. Karaku is very competitive in schools netball, for example, you know, these sort of things. So I think it's important that Karaku continue, well, they get their fair share and they continue to get their fair share. I understood as well, based on what I heard, but it is that there's a big, an increased allocation for the Ministry of Karaku and Piti Martinic Affairs, which to me is very good because a lot of things have been happening over in the Sister Isles, but as indicated, you know, many times they are basically left out of the equation. I think a lot more can be done for the people of Karaku and Piti Martinic, especially in sports, you know, especially in sports. The integration of, in terms of their participation, I think most times they use the aspect of transportation as a limitation, you know, and somehow we have to find a way where we can integrate Karaku's participation. As a matter of fact, for years now, Karaku has been clamoring to be a part of the Grenada Football Association, to be part of it, you know, to be part of the program, have a team from Karaku in the football landscape. You know, we want to see them in netball. We want to see them integrated in the national sporting landscape. And I think, and I hope, I'm thinking because I'm hoping that with that sort of allocation, etc., that we can probably see Karaku in the fold. Clev, I saw your question, but unfortunately, I answered it. I don't have an answer to that. I think the LOC might be in a position to provide answer to that regarding the tickets for the Carafta Games. Yes, Patricia, back in the days, Dover was the main cricket hub. Lots and lots of cricket was played there. Even ladies cricket, yeah, ladies, okay? And she said also in Mount Pleasant too. Well, there is a functioning cricket league in Karaku. Not forgetting, organized box example is based in Karaku in terms of youth boxing, you know, grassroots boxing, Karaku. So it's important that Karaku gets its fair share. And hopefully, I'm just saying hopefully, we'll see some good things. Rian?
Oh yeah, most definitely. I mean, we always talk about the fields and development of fields and the lighting of fields and so forth. But it's always good to see that when a minister could identify that a field has been depleted from what it used to be in the past, and that they can step up and fix a field and change it around not only for the schools but for the communities as well around the school that can benefit as well. So that was I was really happy to hear about that and to hear about the good works that is taking place up there. And it's not the only. I mean, I've seen works taking place even with the previous minister that came from Karaku, and I've seen things that she has done as well in Karaku as well. So I guess the ministers in that region is doing good things.
Yeah.
It's one takeover and continue. He have the opportunity to do more than what the previous one have done, but it's good to see that they are really thinking about the people of Karaku, and they deserve it. Like you said, it's time for us to see them have a football team that both people in the mainland, teams in the mainland, and teams of Karaku can go back and forth and compete. We see people out here have to travel from Canada to the United States, or to the United States from other states, New York to to Washington, and play, right. So it's time for us to see that happening. Same thing for netball. So really happy to hear that, and it'll be a beneficial for the schools as well. That now they have a feel because of the good work they have done. I mean, look at what Carrico have been doing in sports without proper fields or proper tools I'm gonna use to to better themselves, and they have been doing really good. So now with the development of the fields and other facilities that we're hoping to see them. I guess I believe one day they could definitely leave the mainland and go up with that intercultural trophy. I believe they can do that. I
Well,
believe they can do
they,
the same thing in many
well,
sports. I
yeah.
totally
Well,
believe that.
if you
Yeah,
look at Caraco's, both Hillsborough and Bishop's College participation in sports over the years, especially at the intercall, they have been doing pretty well. They have been coming on
yeah,
their own, right? They have been,
yeah, yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
and leave it up to them, as you say. They can really take that trophy one of these days
They can
and
take a trophy up. They can
yeah,
take a trophy
yeah,
up. Yeah, they
yeah,
can trophy. They can
leave it,
definitely do it. I believe they
leave
can,
it to them.
and I
I think
think
I think the
yeah,
only thing that's a disadvantage to them is the numbers, right? But
yeah,
when you look at the competitiveness in the various areas, because once upon a time it was just in the field events. Now we
yeah.
see
Now,
them also in the sprinting and and all
yeah,
these
yeah, yeah,
jumps and all of that. So leave it to them; they can do it, right? Yeah. So Clev, yeah, regarding the stadium, yeah, because I was at the stadium on last Saturday, and yeah, the stadium is not as it is now. I don't know if in terms of it's only at the relaying of the track I know of, but it was never really numbered per se. So it's just the organizers of the event that will have to do something regarding the seats, but it's not really numbered. So my thing is that, hey, get your ticket and get there early. I bought my tickets and I'll be there early enough to take a seat, because as far as I'm concerned, it's not numbered. I went out, I bought my tickets, and I will be there in the section and get and get an appropriate seat regarding that. So if you, for example, Clem, if you want to buy finishing line tickets, buy your finishing line tickets, get there early and take an early position, an early spot. Simple. That's my thing to it. And when I saw that, I recognized, I said, there's no issue with that. To me, I'll be there on time. Okay. I'll be there early enough to get my position. Yeah. So as indicated, we had some, contributions again. Hey, one of the things I really hope that we can change in the future is this, Mr. Speaker. Oh my goodness. Listen, you could address Mr. Speaker at the start if you have to make some sort of request or whatever. Mr. Speaker, I'm hoping such a, but every sentence with Mr. Speaker, we need to cut that out. That's why your time is short. That's why
no,
your time is short.
definitely, and I think,
When you look at every Mr. Speaker, oh my goodness,
hmm
yeah, that
yeah,
goes
yeah,
for both
yeah,
sides. It's
yeah,
time for us to change that.
to
We 50
evolve from
years,
that. Yeah,
yes, man,
yeah,
50 years, we
come
can't
get
be
away from
just
that. Yeah,
Mr. Speaker after every
yeah,
sentence.
yeah.
You're wasting a lot of your
and
time.
and and
Mr.
and only
Speaker,
wasting time. There's a movement too, so there is no movement enough. It's always the same thing. So there's some things, yes, that need to stay in place, but that Mr. Speaker, every sentence,
hey,
you are addressing the speaker already. That's who you're addressing. So I just and I can
and
see it. If you
I
change
will
one
start
topic and you move on to something else, then I understand that. But every sentence,
right.
Mr. Speaker, on the
Yes,
same topic. If it's a different topic, I understand it.
on the
Mr.
same
Speaker,
topic.
so and so to a different topic, yes. But every sentence is Mr. Speaker. That takes a
Mr.
lot of time, and then you run out. Yeah, yeah,
Mr. Speaker, I indulge in intelligence, Mr. Speaker, and Mr. Speaker, and every sentence. No, man, it's killing. Sometimes you're losing the
yeah,
whole gist of because they're cutting it. With Mr. Speaker, Mr. Speaker.
yeah.
So I'm hoping that we can evolve from that, especially as we approach our 50th year of independence, right? This colonial thing about Mr. Speaker, Mr. Speaker. You address the Mr. Speaker. You're not
That's who you're
disrespecting Mr.
speaking to.
Speaker. Okay?
Yeah,
Right,
and that's who you are. Your
right.
first address is him, because that's who you put in the debate to. You're putting to
You
him
have
already, so he
you have
knows it's
already
you you're talking to. Yeah,
you have already established yourself as
Yeah.
Mr. Speaker. I'm here speaking to you. I start off by thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, blah, 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 blah. And then at the end, you can, or if somewhere between you need extra time, Mr. Speaker, I'm requesting additional time, etc., etc. And as you indicated, if probably you're moving on to a different subject matter, you can make reference to Mr. Speaker, but not
Mr.
every
Speaker,
second.
yeah.
So let's go on to the next speaker, not Mr. Speaker, the next speaker that we have. Okay. And we here, and then we'll come back and discuss our presentation.
Also get no sense of any hopeful initiatives for the enhancement and advancement of this country. Government has recently unveiled a national sports policy. Serious questions remain about the execution of that policy and the framework and the support that are being put in place for effective administration. Its proposed introduction is already riddled with conflicts and contradictions and has been effectively set up to fail. There are no initiatives that will help associations in the process of talent identification and development. And these should have been the key metric on which any successful sports policy would have to be measured. Mr. Speaker, finally, the track at the Kirani James Athletic Stadium will be relayed. Well, it's better late than never. And I hope that it will happen in time so that Grenada will host a successful Carifta Games next year. Grenada missed out on several important athletic activities in the year 2023, simply because this current government failed to execute the original proposed schedule to have the track relayed. It is the same problem, Mr. Speaker, with the National Cricket Stadium. Grenada failed to bid for any matches in next year's ICC 2020 World Cup because once again, they failed to have executed promptly the refurbishing of the stadium. That schedule was put in place before the change of government. But a simple plan, Mr. Speaker, they could not have executed. Mr. Speaker, the Minister for Finance in his presentation announced that the refurbishment will take place early next year. But in the interim, we have missed out on the action increasing global comments, the World Cup. It goes without saying, Mr. Speaker, that if the NMP was still in office and if the opposition leader was still the Prime Minister, we would have moved heaven and earth to ensure that we were ready to host the World Cup matches. It has been done before. So the evidence is clear. You see, Mr. Speaker, what they don't understand is that an event like this does not come around often to any region. It could be more than 12 years again before the Caribbean will have such opportunity again. However, Mr. Speaker, in the interim, we look forward to Grenada hosting West Indies and England next week in the matches here. We note, Mr. Speaker, in some quarters, however, that there are some concerns about government's commitment and engagement at some levels. We pray and we hope that as a nation we will not be embarrassed. And for the sake of our collective good name, we hope that all will be done and they will do all it takes to ensure the successful staging of the games next week. It is significant, Mr. Speaker, that I am making these comments the day after we bid farewell to perhaps one of the best sports minister in post-independence Grenada, Age Spaceman Mitchell. While we all hailed his stewardship, his vision, his engagement, his effectiveness, if we compare it to what transpires now, it's like night and day. Associations and people in the sporting fraternity, they are speaking about the current leadership who seems disinterested, disengaged, lacks enthusiasm, has no vision, and provides very little inspiration. But before this debate is over, Mr. Speaker, I am sure you will hear a lot of platitudes, a lot of nice sounding phrases, and lots of exaggerations and false narratives from the other side when it comes to sports development. But what we know is that government support of the various organizations have been reduced. Mr. Speaker, the question must be asked, what is government's policy going forward for the development of sports and culture? Do they have one? Is it prepared, or does this government prepare to implement some of the blueprints they speak about? That's all they do, implement. Some of the blueprints they have inherited? Or does this government have a vision of its own? Is it a case where sports and culture are not worthy of being a significant part of the so-called transformation agenda?
All right. So that's Honorable Kate Lewis Peters, the parliamentary representative, member of parliament representing the constituency of St. Andrew Northeast. And I think she spoke as the opposition spokesperson for sports. Well, I assume, because so far, well, she's the only one who has gone in depth into the whole issue of sports. I'm not too sure. I'm not certain about the context in terms of the sports policy, because as you know, we have covered the sports policy. Well, I particularly have covered the sports policy from since its inception back then in 2011, well, 2010, even all the, the um, discussions, preliminary discussions, all of that. And I think it is long before she probably got into the political arena. So I am hoping that during the course of the debate that there'll be more discussion, and that's all I'm hoping, that more discussions will emanate from the various MPs on both sides regarding sports and how sports can assist in the development of their various communities. What it is that is being done, what should be done, these sort of things. I would have loved to hear a lot of what it is from the community level in particular. Leave the whole issue of the national. Yeah, you can spend some time on the national issue, stadium, blah blah blah, and thing. But I want to know what it is that's happening in your community, what it is needs to be done, what is being done or what is not being done, or what should be done in your community. I think we need to hear from those communities, especially in the context of the time frame. You don't have a lot of time to speak on. You have so many things you want to talk about. So my thing is that spend as much time as possible in terms of the the policy and all these other areas. You can probably spend a sentence or two on it and things like that. But I want to hear what is it that's happening, because it's from the communities, the villages, the parishes. That is what will transform to the national stadium in terms of football and cricket and track and field, etc., etc. I want to hear a lot of that. But I thank her for her presentation and spending quite a bit on sports. I must give her credit for that. I don't think many of the others spend that much time on the issue of sports, even though she took her time, etc. As again I'm saying, let me cut out that, Mr. Speaker. You'll hear from the others. Say, Mr. Speaker, we want to hear what it is being done regarding sports. We need talent identification and a plan for improving grassroots sports. Yeah. So, anything you want to add, Rudian?
I certainly do have a lot. I agree with a lot of things she says, and I 100% disagree with a lot of things she said. And let's start with the stadium. I agree that we should have a bidding. I don't think maybe you have, but I haven't got a clear reason why we didn't bid for the cricket. Like I said, I don't have a clear reason why, but definitely we should have. The cricket stadium is good enough to host West Indies as well as an England as of next week. What is the difference in the World Cup to host it? If it's good enough for that, why is it not good enough to hold the cricket? Now, the stadium has been needed repairs long before the NMP get in power, the NDC get in power. So why wasn't it done under their administration? So we don't want to get into the politics things, because when you listen, I respect and I understand the way politics work. But it's always be wrong and we start a plan and we didn't do. But why wasn't it fixed prior to? Why wasn't it updated prior to? Why wasn't the repairs been done on it prior to? The administration is just in a year and a few months, and yes, there's a lot to fix when they go in there. And yes, we always say sports is never the top priority, not only in Grenada, but across the globe. Sports is never the top priority for our government. But we have seen a lot of time is spending on sports in this present time now, because a lot of activities is taking place. So you see a lot of that is taking place now. So it never comes down to me in terms of, this, we had this in place and that didn't in place and then we didn't get it done. No. And again, we need to talk more of the communities. What's taking place in your community, what sporting change you want to see in your community, what funding you like to see take place in your community to develop your community. You're speaking on a broad spectrum in terms of national, but what about your community? Because you are there to represent your community. So that just a part of it. And like, again, I agree, she take her time, she did speak well on it, but there was some narrative in there that could be wrong. And I've been involved in the policy that's taking place. I know, based on what I've heard, it's not out yet, but based on what I've seen as well, document that was, that I've read, that there is a lot in there for change for the athletes. There's a lot in there that's coming. For associations as well, there's a lot. So maybe she knows something we don't know. Yeah, maybe, so it's only time that will tell in terms of what is coming. But don't blast something before it comes out. When it comes out and it's a policy, then you can blast it. So yeah,
as it relates to the bidding for cricket, both the minister and I'm trying to remember who else, but someone else, they gave an explanation. I mean, we have to accept the fact that they gave an explanation as to why Grenada did not bid. And reason being, and we can't use what is happening.
I'm not hearing you on my side. You're frozen for a little bit. Yeah.
Even Dominica, for example, who have indicated that they are hosting matches, gave an indication of hosting matches, and then had to withdraw, right? I'm not saying that Grenada is in a similar situation. They're saying that the work needs to be done, and the work scheduled to be done is after the matches that will be played this month. I think it's the 16th and 17th, somewhere there.
16th and 17th, yeah.
Right?
Next week, yeah.
Right. So they said after that, the work needs to be done, and the period of time that the work will be done will not give them enough time for the hosting of the matches, and thus they decided not to. In fact, if
not
they
to
had
bid
to,
for it,
they may not have gotten because right now they're doing stadium inspection. The ICC stadium inspectors are throughout the region. In fact, today, as we speak, they are in Trinidad at the Brian Lara Cricket Stadium, right? I know they have done Barbados already, and they're
yes, I know that too. Yeah.
So at some point in time, if Grenada had bid, it
would have been,
right. And I'm not certain whether or not they may have, met the standard. That's what they're saying. That is separate from hosting a T20 or one day. We're talking about World Cup matches, right? World Cup. So we can't put them on the same level. And it's sort of in the genius of people to make that comparison. If you have been following sports, if you are involved in sports, if you have been going to these international sporting events across the globe, you will understand the context in that. And that's what I'm saying. Don't make that, for some people, they're saying, oh, if we can host the matches this weekend or this month, we can host the World Cup. No, it's different. As a matter of fact, there's no stadium inspection for
those games.
Yeah, that's West Indies cricket. Cricket West Indies will have their folks here in Grenada who will say, yes, we're ready to host the game. We have hotels, blah, blah. The fields will be ready. All these other things. When it comes to the World Cup, the ICC will send their team and their team will do the inspection. It's like the Olympics. They send the IOC inspection team to do their inspection over a period of time that will
Yeah.
involve a lot of things, the structure of the facility, a lot of things that will come into play.
Taking
And
place. Yeah.
as Dominica indicated, initially they said yes, and then after they had to
They said they
withdraw.
had to pull out. Yeah.
Yeah, they said the work
Yeah.
that they have to do, it would not be ready. So let's just leave that there for now. What else was said? Well, I agree. She indicated some other issues. I think she probably got left with a lot of those things because, as indicated, regarding the sports policy, and you did mention it, that sports policy was there for not almost, more than 10 years.
More than 10 years ago. Yeah.
Something should have been done on that sport. Listen, that is something I would stay far away from if I'm in that position, because there was a policy there. There was the opportunity to, revamp it, revive it, start over.
Never was done. Yeah.
Do something about it. I mean, and
Never done.
I'm passionate when it comes to that sports policy. Passionate.
No, definitely. And I am too. Like,
I was a lone ranger for many years.
Yeah.
Calling on the introduction, implementation of the sports policy in whatever form, in various forms. It's a policy document. You may not be able to implement everything, but there, as we always said, there were low-hanging fruits that could have been implemented. And
yes,
by some measure, we can say that this policy was being implemented in various phases. Okay, but again, I will give her credit for the opportunity to speak about the issue of sport. There were some concerns that she raised, and I agree, and I want to concur.
I agree with her. No, I agree with her. And then some concerns. Yeah, and some concerns she was just like you said, stay away from, because it's in a debate. You're not going to win that debate because your administration was in power and nothing was done as well. And so if you want to go that way, yeah.
And we have to also try to stay away from dragging this into, the politics, government.
And that's what I was saying. I have a conversation with you concerning that. Yeah.
Yeah, government is continuum, and my thing is that if you find it good and a good policy, you can continue with it, or you can give reasons why you don't want to continue in it, or what is the alternative, whatever it is. Other than that, I will just say, well, I haven't looked into the whole issue of the policy as yet. We don't, we because, by the way, let me just put one thing with that, with regards to the policy. When that policy was debated back then in 2010, 2011 in Parliament, the current opposition was in opposition at the time. I could always remember that because I said I went to Grenada to participate in all the consultations, etc., passage, everything like that. So, and there was full support for the national sports policy, the policy on sports and physical activity at that time. The only concern raised at the time by still the opposition leader at the time was that the funding. He said, I have I have to go back into my archives to get the interview. I have no problem with the sports policy. My only concern is how we are going to fund the various areas. What we have to do, as he was saying at the time, we'll have to sit down and find ways of funding it, etc., blah, blah, blah. But there was full support. The late Elvin Nimrod, I think, Clarence Modest Cowen was there. I believe it might have been Gregory Bowen, I'm not certain, but there was full support from the opposition. Let's see if we can get a little piece again on the whole issue of sports. Let's see who it is now. Minister of Sports. Yeah.
Yes, yesterday we laid to rest what could be considered, or who could be considered, one of the most progressive sports ministers in Grenada's history in a long time, or at least in this period.
But listening to that comment, I was waiting to hear that, yeah, while he was good, we had one who was better. So, Mr. Speaker, let me tell you what I mean by that. Because you were there after him, you saw, we didn't see no improvements, find things worse. And this is based on what I mean by that. The stadium was constructed in 2007. We heard about everything was there, where it was, Vincent? In the pipeline. We heard that. That all we had to do now was just get it implemented. But that could not be further from the truth. That is a bold-faced lie. Mr. Speaker, as it relates to lighting the cricket stadium, I want to say this. The former administration played too much political games with this. For years, they're just promising people, just like they did with the traffic lights. Say, he coming in August, oh God, he coming in this time, he coming in September, and absolutely nothing was put in place to get it done. So as it relates to lighting the cricket stadium, for the first time, Grenada is going to light the cricket stadium. NLA is going to foot the bill. We know the quantum of it, and it is demonstrated how we are going to be able to roll that out. So in the refurbishment of the National Cricket Stadium, we are for the first time going to install the infrastructure to be able to get the electricity lines and so on run to light the National Cricket Stadium. Only talk, no action, everything in the pipeline. So we are able to do that. Secondly, as it relates to the refurbishment work in the National Cricket Stadium, Mr. Speaker, one of the first things, or rather, one of the first groups that I met with when we came into office was the People's Republic of China, the ambassador, who said to me that this thing is rare. Grenada received, Mr. Speaker, grant funding to the tune of 11 million US. This is monies that we can't get anywhere else. But you know what was the problem? All the talk now that the former administration is making about put the lights, and we want to see, and we wanted this, and we have to have night cricket and so on. When they negotiated the original thing, no mention about lighting the cricket stadium. Mr. Speaker, the problem that existed where the manuals for the stadium was in Mandarin, they didn't even make a recommendation to change that. So we did three things since coming into office, engaging the Chinese to be able to change it. Three progressive things. One, having the dialogue so that we can work in tandem with them, because they don't like stadiums, stadia, to be able to install the lights with a separate contractor. So they'll work hand in hand with that contractor to light. Two, to get the manuals of the stadium in English, so that all people locally could be able to get the job to fix it, and we don't have to call the People's Republic of China to be able to assist us just to change a light or to look for a pipe if it was. And second, to engage the People's Republic of China for some technical knowledge in maintaining and preserving the metals that are used in the National Stadium. Mr. Speaker, look at the metals that are used in the stadium. You're boasting about NNP Act vision and this and that and so on. But look how rundown the stadium became. Not a thing you did. All the monies in the treasury as you claim it. Well, I don't know. The treasury had a miscarriage back then. I mean, I can't understand this. You saying your thing, you know, we never said this. But you're not using the resources. You are not using the resources. One, to empower people. And two, to actually fix the problems that you were creating. So that's what we inherited. Yes, yesterday we laid to rest what could be considered, or who could be considered, one of the most progressive sports ministers in Grenada's history in a long time, or at least in this period. But in listening to that comment this afternoon, I was kind of waiting to hear that, yeah, while he was good, we had one who was better. So, Mr. Speaker, let me tell you what I mean by that. Because you were there after him, you saw, we didn't see no improvements. I find things get worse. And this is based on what we inherit. And let me tell you what I mean by that. The stadium was constructed in 2007. We heard about everything was there. Where it was, Vincent? In the pipeline. We heard that. That all we had to do now was just get it implemented. But that could not be further from the truth. That is a bold-faced lie. Mr. Speaker, as it relates to lighting the cricket stadium, I want to say this. And the former administration
Okay, so I think we had
for years, they're just promising people, just like they did with the traffic.
Right. So I think we had that segment already. I trying to get the other one now. Let me see if we can get the minister who can give us the other part of his presentation. Uh, quite a bit, I would say, from the the minister, well, who basically is the MP for St. George Northeast, but in his capacity as minister for uh, uh, responsibility for youth, sports, and culture. I think I have it correct, right? Youth, sports, and culture, and provided a little insight into the lighting of the cricket stadium, the lighting of the cricket stadium. I think that is the essence of his presentation there. The cricket stadium in particular, because that is the issue on, I think, that was mentioned by the Minister of Finance when he spoke regarding the well, to an extent, when he made mention of the budget and the allocation, and he spoke about the improving of sports infrastructure, and he said part of parcel of the national sports policy as one of it, and then the undertaking of the lane of the tracks, and then also the lighting of the cricket stadium. But what the minister basically was saying is that they will be more or less laying the foundation. He didn't give the impression that the lights will be installed. What he's saying is like the poles and the electrical fittings and all of that will be part of the renovation of the cricket stadium, so that when there is the possibility or the chance for lighting it, it's already there. It's probably like just to put the bulbs in and to turn on the lights or something, because he didn't really speak about lighting it, but he talked about the infrastructure work regarding the poles and the electrical fittings, etc., etc. I that's my taken from it. I can be wrong, but I've listened to it, and that is what I got out of it. I don't know for you, Rudian, what it is you got out of it in terms of that presentation there in particular.
Well, what I take from that is that the stadium will be light. That's what I take from it. And there's what he's saying, that there's two contractors. You have the Republic of China, who is the one responsible for the the development or repairs of the national stadium, to repair all of that. But they have to work in collaboration together with a different company who's coming and do the lighting. So they're working on that, where they can work together on that, because it makes two separate companies, because the Republic of China do not deal with the lighting of the stadium. Their responsibility. So that's what I take from that. And then he talks about changing it into English, because it seems like it's in Chinese, which is quite unusual. I think the layout of the stadium is in Chinese, which is like, okay, yeah, all right, that don't make no sense, but it's in Chinese. But they try to get it convert into English, so that in the future, when they don't need them anymore, whoever they can contract that is maybe budget wise that is less could understand what they are dealing with. And of course, they said they get 11 million US dollars to build the stadium. That the part I didn't get, or to refurbish the stadium. I didn't understand that one bit this, but if it is, that is a lot of money to get things done that haven't been done. Like they use the word, everything is in the pipeline, and that's why you see we have to be careful, because now his answer is saying that in everything that they speak about, when they put the plan together, the lighting was never involved. And that's why sometimes when you speak up, you have to be careful what you say, because now you have two different messages, and is the people will go based on who they know and who they like to and believe yes, the NMP saying that they this and that and they are that. Now the NDC is saying one thing, and so you have the people in the middle, people bouncing who they believe. And if you are NMP, you're going to believe the NMP. If you're NDC, you're going to believe the NDC. And that's where we are now. There is no concrete stuff. And that's when politics get involved deeply like this, like he say and she say, and who didn't do, get involved. It become messy. Do what has to be done. Period. Stop the jumping around and this one and this one. Do what has to be done. If you put, this is my thing with the government. You put people in place, in a position. The minister is responsible. The minister is the only one that is a government appointee by the people for his position, Minister of Sports. That's his role. Then is putting other people in place. If they're not doing their job, get rid of them and put people else in position. Simple as that.
But remember, he's not elected sports minister. He's elected.
No, he's not. Yeah. So he's elected as the representative for his constituency, and I understand that. But then he's appointed by the prime minister as that role as a minister of sports, and then in his position, he now is responsible for all of these little people under him in that. So it is time for us to get people in position who wants to get the work done and who is doing the work. Otherwise, we're going to be going through the same thing over and over again. Which has been happening.
I'm always of the view and the opinion that the minister is at the mercy of the public servants.
Yeah.
Like a permanent secretary, for example. A permanent, I remember it was I think it was Chester Humphrey, then Senator Humphrey, that was advocating for the changing of the name permanent secretary, because it gives the connotation that you're there for life, permanent.
Right? For life. I remember that. I remember something like that.
You cannot be touched, and you make or break a politician, for example, because you are there to carry out the policies of the government, and sometimes they give these permanent secretaries these responsibilities that they drag their feet on things. You will hear of stories of just something to be signed. All the information is available. It's just a signature. Sometimes the permanent secretary is already briefed on it. Just a signature, and it may be on the desk of a permanent secretary for weeks.
And we have heard about that in several occasions.
Hey, I'm telling you, a signature, not
a signature
to read, because it is something that was already discussed, debated on. Sometimes, for example, cabinet conclusions coming back to the ministry, so that the permanent secretary can take action, and it's lying on the desk.
Michael, I had a conversation. I had a conversation with a former prime minister nephew, the nephew of a former prime minister. And when I listened to the same thing that you were saying, all it's needed is a signature, and it's sitting on someone's desk, and we lose out the opportunity in getting this thing, because it was mainly what you're saying, that it was more of a scholarship based thing. I'm not going to go into the full details. And Grenada get X amount of scholarship. They get 12 to the example, and then they only send 2 out. So other islands, especially especially like Trinidad, would ask for extra because they have more people who they want to get that scholarship to, and then they take it away from Grenada because it's just sitting there. So now, instead of Grenada getting 12 people that can go on a scholarship and get an education and come back with that education and work in Grenada, that was the contract. You go and you come back, now you only have 2. And the others now go to other islands who need more. All you need is just a signature. So you sit down and say that you don't need to do nothing else. You go to the policy, make sure that it's what it is in that document, and you just signed it. That's all it takes, and we are lacking in that. We've changed the whole dynamics and everything that we are doing. So the question is, what are you? What is your role? what is your role in there? And if you're not doing the job, like I said, it is time for us to get up in a position and get. Listen, we don't like Donald Trump as much. I don't. I know in terms of his policy aspect, but he don't play. If you're not doing what you got to do, you're fired. There's something, even though you know may not say yeah he's this and he's that. He has something that makes sense. If you're not doing what you do, you have to go. You know, and as simple as that. If the people of in Grenada who are in government position and is not doing their job, it is time to get rid of them. And it's not only in sports, but in every area when it deals with government.
All right.
So,
So let me get the last segment of it in, and then we'll get to wrap up. Let me hear what Patricia James is saying. Michael, hope you can get someone from the other side for Karakou to talk about cricket and why cricket grounds were abandoned in Karakou and Petit Martinique as well, when so much young people love this sport. Certainly, Patricia, I will take that up in the new year, because this is our penultimate program, and definitely I think it's something that I will put on the agenda for the new year.
however, if I could say, Patricia, like the minister just spoke about things that's happening. So there is a future coming for cricket. It seems like fields are being, put together for that sporting activity. So there is cricket coming, and I believe that is something that's coming to Carriacou and Petit Martinique, and definitely, we will talk about it. Yeah.
Yeah, but I will definitely want to speak to the people on the ground regarding the development of sport in Karakou. Sometime earlier this year, we had someone that was speaking about, I think it was track and field or something. But I think Patricia's idea of, speaking directly to someone regarding, and particularly cricket, because they have been doing pretty well in cricket. We know track and field is very established for them, but we want to do for Karakou. Let me, before I get to the minister's final piece, I want to read specifically and quote, right, that the finance minister made as it relates to the lighting of the cricket stadium and relaying of the track. He says, improving sports infrastructure. Mr. Speaker, as part and parcel of our national sports policy, this administration is taking decisive steps to provide quality sporting infrastructure for our sportsmen and women. In this context, Mr. Speaker, we will undertake the relaying of the track at the Kirani James Athletic Stadium and the refurbishment of the National Cricket Stadium as two major initiatives. With respect to the latter, the lighting of the National Stadium to facilitate night cricket will be undertaken. Well, and to be honest with you, lighting of stadium has been something that has been in the budget for umpteen years, including last year. Including last year. So even this present government has been saying the same thing about the lighting of the cricket stadium. The hope is that it will be a reality this time around. Okay, I think there was a little more specifics this time around. We have been hearing about the lighting of the stadium, the cricket stadium. We have been hearing about the swimming pool, for example, for years. And in fact, to be honest with you, I have been involved in sports and the sports media for the better part of 30 years, about 32, 33 years, right? That's a lot. And as it relates to the swimming pool, I've been hearing about that since then. I mean, I'm telling you that. Swimming pool, as a matter of fact, was being talked about since before stadium. Swimming pool was being talked about since I was on Scott Street, Radio Grenada, then Radio Grenada. And there still isn't proper swimming facilities for our swimmers in Grenada. When the Gurut swimming pool is under repair, which is not in the best of shape, they have to go to hotels. They have to go to the hotels and, get some time, because obviously the hotels have guests. So they will have to get a period of time. Yeah, that's how it used to be before. They have to go there to train Sometimes, as the case with, those folks in Guelph, they go in the bay, and things like that. So, and that is administration over administration. So that's why I'm saying sometimes I don't like the politics thing in that. Government is continuum, and it's just a matter of building on what is existing. If it's good, you build on it. If you believe that there should be some sort of modification, and obviously things will change over a period of time. Like, for example, the sports policy. I don't expect the sports policy to be implemented in the current state it was over the past 10 years. A lot has evolved over those period of time. For example, when they did it, there was nothing regarding mental health, as an example. Doping wasn't a big thing in it. So all the anti-doping, I should say, So all these things are part and parcel of it. And by the way, in the next 2, 3, even 4 to 5 years' time, there will have to be some amendments. There'll have to be some changes. And I say it's similar to like road traffic, for example. We didn't have anything about traffic lights and all these things in the Road Traffic Act 5, 10 years ago. Well, 10 probably years ago. In new dispensation, you have to look at all these things. We didn't have all these vehicles in Grenada. Listen, man, I was in Grenada for the past few days. And to go from point A to point B in certain areas is like in probably downtown Brooklyn or Manhattan. I'm telling you, you're in traffic and you're thinking that you're in some metropolitan area, Yeah, Grenada, little Grenada. We have there's too many vehicles. And by the way, as I say that, too many vehicles, too many crazy drivers too. I'm telling you, too many. We are driving fast to nowhere, fast to nowhere. I see a man, I mean, gas probably free, because I don't know why you all this gas, and you just stop right there. I don't know, but a lot of things. And I have to tell you, Rudy, every time I go to Grenada, this is the first time the last time I was in Grenada, I think was a year ago. Yeah, it was a year ago, right?
Yeah.
So, and every time I go, it's something new, something challenging. I probably need to go probably every month or every 3 months to get acclimatized to whatever is happening in Grenada. It's really challenging, man. But we'll talk a little bit on the other side of that. Let me hear what Ron Redhead has to say in his second segment.
Of the tracks. Again, Mr. Speaker, as the minister responsible for sports, when I came in, I saw absolutely nothing that would suggest that the former administration was working to relay the tracks at Athletic Stadium. That's a lie again. That never happened. Whether or not you had that conversation, it was not part of your repertoire. So as usual, you're saying things, you have no evidence of it, but you come to the parliament just to express it. We are pleased, Mr. Speaker, to report that the contractor has already prepared the materials. They should be shipped here close to the end of December. Work will commence in January of 2024 and will be completed by the end of February. Or rather, sorry, before that. We have already, Mr. Speaker, paid half in accordance to the contractor's payment schedule. So we've honored half already. So all of the materials are prepared and the tracks should be installed. In a matter of weeks or days, we will be routing up the warm-up tracks, preparing it for when they come to lay down. So we are not just relaying the tracks inside of the Kirani James Athletic Stadium, but we are also relaying the tracks at the warm-up section of the Athletic Stadium. So, Mr. Speaker, that is going to go well. Mr. Speaker, a part of our line item under capital projects is the National Stadium repairs. And I can say to you that we have this there because we are going to utilize some of it so that we can clean up the car park at the National Stadium. I can safely say to you that we have commenced conversations not merely to privatize the car park of the stadium, but to monetize it so that the stadium authority will be able to get additional revenue, notwithstanding the closure of the National Cricket Stadium from major events. And this is something, Mr. Speaker, we are proud of, because when we came in, we met the vendors there. Yes, COVID, they were vulnerable, things were difficult. But what was supposed to be a temporary measure, in fact, the stadium reported that nobody told them anything. They got to come on in and they saw them vendors there. So they had no say in the decision. They couldn't change anything because who was in charge, that's what they did. So they didn't consult with nobody, they did that. And the stadium essentially had a plan to monetize it and was losing good revenue that it otherwise could have been earning. So we have part of that there. Mr. Speaker, for the first time in Grenada's history, and let me go back with some facts. 30 years now, the Swimming Association have been clamoring for the construction of an aquatic center. 30 years, and we have the records. Mr. Speaker, swimming in Grenada is doing so well. The Grenadian athletes who go out there and represent are always winning, and they are doing it without a local facility. The only facility they have is Guru. This administration, in 18 months, and certainly even earlier, saw it fit not just to talk about swimming and developing swimming in a big way in the country, but to put the monies, the people's monies, where our mouth was in regards to that. And I can safely say to you that FINA, I hope I get the name right, but the International Organization for Swimming in the world, in collaboration with the local association, is going to commence the construction work of an aquatic center in Grenada, Carriacou. Mr. Speaker, we have budgeted a total of $500,000 to do any preparatory work that is required so that we can get this project off the ground and rolling. Again, we didn't make no big false promise. In seeing the situation, Mr. Speaker, the potential for sports tourism is tremendous, and we want to capitalize on that. Repairs are hard code. I want to make this point, Mr. Speaker, because in the approved estimates for 2023, a total of $30,000 only was allocated for repairs to hard codes. You know how much we spent in the actual budget? $166,485. What does that mean? We didn't have the allocated resources, but we definitely put our money where our mouth was. Mr. Speaker, throughout the entire country, you could just pass around and see facilities that needed upgrades, getting it now. Lights. One of the biggest mistakes of the last administration was that they were just lighting up all field all over the place as if it's Christmas in December, in January, all over the place, without any clear policy. Mr. Speaker, in my constituency, for example, 2 contractors were hired to light the same playing field. Well, I never see that before. 2 contractors, Mr. Speaker, I humbly request at least 5 minutes just to wrap up. As I dive into.
Honorable MP, I do permit you 5 minutes.
Yes. Thank you.
300
I know what you mean by that, so I do understand. Yes, I'll take 5 or probably 4. So, Mr. Speaker, we were able to draft a policy to say how, what, when, and how we will maintain the lights at playing fields. So our agenda right now is to light major playing fields so that on a constituency basis, some of the sports programs that we need to roll out would be able to roll out through the facilities with well-lit areas, professionally done. I don't know if I think. I mean, the member for Carriacou and P.T. Martin could attest to the fact we went up there a few weeks ago. He had a cricket tournament, and you could only see when you stand up right beneath the pool. Again, wrong instruments used, wrong angle, small, short pole, all kind of thing. Political expediency. These are things, Mr. Speaker, that must be a thing of the past. Because as we roll out the national policy on sports and and physical activity, we need to be able to complement the maintenance of facilities. So you're going to hear more about that, because what you heard this afternoon is just deception about the national sports policy. In 2012, this policy was passed, Mr. Speaker. All we did was commence the act, make it into law in November of 2023. We didn't change anything. We are now going to get the opportunity to change it because it had to be commenced first. And you know that. You sat on it like a duck on an egg. You didn't do nothing. Now we're doing something, a set of propaganda. Oh, I want to run, want to stop people from playing bingo in the field and all kind of thing. That was the narrative. And that's the mindset, Mr. Speaker, that we have to change. So the advent of the national policy on sports and physical activity is going to help us to professionalize sports. Mr. Speaker, for the first time, Cabinet has approved the incentive package for athletes in Grenada. If you're running Olympics and you give us a Kirani James, you now know what you're entitled to. Not false promise and say, you get land, you'll get some money there, and 5 years later, they're still waiting for that promise. We now have the incentive package in train, and we're going to publish it just now. Athletes, and for all categories of sports disciplines, athletes can now feel confident that they can represent their country and know what they are entitled to under this administration. 18 months.
Right. So that's the Honorable Ron Redhead, who is also the minister with responsibility for youth, sports, and culture. Right? And that's the final piece from him as it relates to the relaying of the track at the Kirani James Athletic Stadium, and 2, in terms of significance, the swimming pool at Good Hope made mention of an allocation of $500,000 to do any preparatory work, whatever it is that needs to be done. But it is a collaboration between the Grenada Amateur Swimming Association and FINA, which is the international body responsible for swimming, right? So we're hearing that now, and we're hoping, it's our hope that this will become a reality. As I said, it's something we have been hearing far too long, and the hope is that there is some sort of closure to that. And it's only one of many, because I'm certain we have been hearing talk to, well, you know, to some extent, of a national indoor center, for example, that can host basketball, netball, volleyball, badminton. You know, an indoor facility is something that has been tossing up. But again, it will depend on finance and, you know, acquisition of lands and, you know, all these sort of things. But as again, I'm saying, when we hear these promises, Rudian, we need to hold their feet to the fire, because 1 year from now, we may be talking about the same thing. You know, we may be talking about the same thing. Hopefully, our hope is that we might be saying that it's near to completion, it's completed, it's almost completed, or, you know, these sort of things like that. So, but that's how it goes. You know, the sad thing about it, it's politics. You know, whether it's government, whether it's opposition, they're all politicians, and you know, and let's hope that for the betterment of sports, that they will. I mean, I'm not saying that everything they may be able to achieve everything, you know, but at least it's our hope that, you know, when you talk big, you have to come out big, boy.
You have to back it up.
Yeah, you have to back it up.
No, definitely, and I like I said, I you know, when I listen to Miss Peters, she definitely said about you're going to hear the good talk and the nice talk, and we did hear that. You know, it sounds good, but you have to, you know, if you talk the talk, you have to walk the walk. So that's why we just have to wait and see what happening. It definitely sounds good. It sounds like the promises to come. He did say some things that we all talk about. The policy been there from 2012. What happened? What happened, and the promises for the athletes, that was things that was promised to them. So that's a document that's coming out soon. That also was signed by government, so that will be in law. So that we're looking forward to see as well, that we know that when the athletes go there and come back, they are not doing it in vain, and the future of Grenada athletes in every category, that it will put a push for the athletes to go there and and want to be a part of a national team and get some things done. So definitely sounds good. Just had to wait and see, and hopefully we don't have to have this conversation again in terms of what's not done, and that we could bring Mr. Reddit on and said, "Man, you did well. Congratulations, you and your team did well." So that's what we're really hoping to. Our next meeting with him will say, "Hey, you did well. Well done." So yeah.
Yeah. So thank you, Patricia. She's saying that one term is not enough to do a lot of things. And Toro is saying it will make sense to have the swimming pool as part of an indoor facility. The
Definitely
only
would make
problem,
sense to do that.
well, yeah, but the only problem, unlike what we experience in metropolitan areas, is that in the case of Grenada, it is your only, let's say it is your only indoor facility. Now, if you have swimming, for example, it means that, and especially like a swimming tournament, what's about basketball or netball, or these sort of things,
But I think they
it's
should have,
possible.
it should be some sort of covering at least, so
No,
that
well,
if it
yeah,
does rain
yeah,
heavy, it wouldn't
yeah.
over
Well,
flooded by
I would
water.
say,
And that's what I would
I,
say. Yeah.
I will say that any swimming facility will need some sort of covering,
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
remember the maintenance aspect. I think it has been a discussion previously. The maintenance of swimming facilities. I mean, just a private swimming pool alone, much
No,
less
definitely.
just
Definitely.
much
Yeah.
less something like that. The
Yeah.
maintenance, it takes quite a bit, for the
Yeah,
maintenance.
and the covering, I was in Orlando, and I was at a specific hotel, and behind it there was a swimming facility, and I mean, you from the outside you could have seen the inside, because the kind of material they use, and they had stands in there, but the material they used wasn't no, high end material. There's material that was good enough to have a covering. Even the people sitting in the stands could have some sort of covering. So definitely, like I said, it doesn't have to be the high end thing, because I could tell the budget is only like half $1 million so far, and whatever the other,
I'm
putting
smiling.
in.
I'm
Yeah.
smiling because Patricia is saying I ain't hiding to say I'm from the island and I cannot swim. I mean, Patricia, I don't think people
Patricia, I'm
probably
sorry to hear that. I wouldn't say that publicly, Patricia, if I was you, I wouldn't say
well,
that publicly.
well, I mean, yeah, she's not. She is saying that she's not hiding to say it. She's bringing up. Two other things I want to talk about before we leave. Three in particular. But the first one, well, we did it already, but at least we don't want to end the program without again paying tribute to the late Adrian Spaceman Mitchell. Definitely gave quite a bit for those of you who would have worked with him and such. We had him on our program. In fact, it was the last program I think he would have been on. That was in September when we spoke to him, even though he was not of the best of health and
Yeah,
things like that.
yeah.
But certainly, we want to pay tribute to him once again and to his family. That may his soul rest in peace. No doubt he has, and somehow, is someone we have been trying to get on the program for a while, until eventually he decided that yes, he will come on and say something. I don't know if he was telling us, well, this is the last time, guys. But he did. He came onto the program and gave his perspective on cricket. He spoke a lot about community sports. Remember that, community sports. Right. Kyron is saying, not sure why the indoor facility is taking so long. There are many benefits to the majority of the sporting disciplines. We need an international standards indoor facility. Kyron, you may probably have to use your clout and willpower, I should say, to
Sounds
start the
good.
ball rolling. Yeah? I know specifically for basketball. The other thing I want to talk about before we go, well, two other things, but this one is a very serious matter. And you would have seen it, Rudian, and many of the folks viewing it would have seen that unfortunate situation regarding the cache of knives and sharpened instruments that were confiscated by the Royal Grenada Police Force or the security forces on Wednesday at the finals of the secondary school football tournament. This to me is very alarming. And no one should take this thing for granted or should be glorifying. I mean, we should be heaping praises on the security forces, because even though I understood after that there were a couple incidents of violence or whatever it is, based on what we have seen, I think it is quite alarming, and that could have been a disaster waiting to happen. I mean, a chopper, the knives, the sort of knives you've seen there. I mean, folks were not, I don't think the folks were going there for football or sports. Certainly they were going for something else. And I think what, to me, and I'll get your views in a moment, the names of these folks, whether they are school children or not, should have been taken down. They should have been probably detained and questioned, and information passed on to the schools and their parents. That should not just be in a situation where confiscated and that's it. We need to know, well, we already have an idea that to some extent it's a reflection of society, a reflection of the homes, a breakdown, certainly the homes, because if kids are going to school, because as far as I'm concerned, even though it was a football game, we consider it to be co-curricular activities, right? Because most of them would have been in their school clothes. It was a normal school day, and you go to school and then you go, to support your school, whatever it is. So I am wondering what it is like on a daily basis at the schools, because many of the schools, well, as far as I'm concerned, all of the schools, they don't have body scanners and things like that. So kids are walking into their classroom with their bags and whatever it is. And I don't know, or we don't know what it is they have in it. I mean, it's just that they were going to the stadium, and for some reason, they have to be bold-faced, because if you go into the stadium, there'll be security there. So to go into the stadium, to be searched and to be confiscated, it means that some of them they're not afraid, because I'm certain there will be a few of them would have got wind that, hey, there's security there, and they either turn around or they may have hid whatever it is they had and then collect it after, or whatever it is. But there were those, I mean, look what they confiscated. So to me, this is very alarming, and there might be those who might say, hey, that's no big thing, And I saw some comments from some, I have to say, some idiots, mind you. Sorry about that, but I have to call them idiots, because if you're suggesting that the police should not be focusing on that, but going and look for other people and this, that, and the other, to me, I am saying you are an idiot. Okay, this was a school event, as far as I'm concerned. There is no reason for any school child, anyone in particular, to be attending an activity like that with knives, scissors, chopper. I mean, a chopper. I mean, you're not a butcher. What you doing with that? So, this to me, it's scary. It's scary, and there needs to be action, swift action. And I'm hoping that the security forces would have been on top of that to the extent that the schools and others are getting involved. Because as far as I'm concerned, if I'm the principal of a school or the teacher in any school, I will want to know which of my students were involved, which of them, how many of them or who was involved, who they confiscated that from, because I need to have a conversation with them. I need to know what is going on. What was the reason? I don't know whether it was just, hey, we confiscated it and that's that. Something needs to be done.
No, I concur with you, Michael, on that. It was a scary thought, just reading about it, and I agree with you on some of the idiots who's commenting on and I'm going to use the word uneducated, because if something happened, they're going to ask the question, where was the police, and what did they do? And it's always like that. So when the police do their job, they want to say, well, why they doing their job? If they don't do their job, where were they? Why didn't they do their job? So it puts in a position that makes it very scary that if you are going to a school activity, you have to be fearful because you don't know
You don't know.
what
Yeah.
to expect. And this is not only for the high school kids, but the grandparents want to go see their grandchild play a game. Who could have been there, and little brothers and sisters, little elementary school kids could have also be there, babies, toddlers.
Yeah.
So it's not just one school kids only. No, there's all walks of life. They will come in there to see, a sporting event if they just want to watch a sporting event or come and support the school or support the nieces, the nephew, the grandkids. And this is what the outcome is. And if the education system or the school itself don't take action towards that, and then something is wrong on their part as well. So it's time for them to step up. That if every sporting event you have to go to now have to have security, then that's what it is, to keep the people safe. And
Yeah.
definitely the Grenada police, as well as the security and the Ministry of Sports, as well as education, have to work together and collab together to see that the safety of students and the general public at a high school sporting event is safe.
Yeah. Yes, well said. Finally, our last program for the year will be next Saturday, God's willing, right? Yes, that will be the 16th, right? And as customary, we will use the opportunity to discuss a summary of the year's activities, and we probably may get some interesting little clips and things for certain things that were said during the year and things like that. So because we had some very interesting discussions over the year, and also what we will determine as that's Saturday Sports Special sports personalities for 2023 in the categories of junior and senior male and sports personalities of the year. We will
Male and
also have a
female.
team
Yeah.
category. Who do you think will be the team category of the year? The association of the year. We will decide which association you think deserve that accolade. The most improved athlete, and when we say athlete, remember it's not track and field. The most improved sportsman, sportswoman, whatever. And then also the emerging star. Who do you think is someone that is coming up?
Upcoming.
Right.
Yeah.
And
Rising star.
we have to keep an eye on that person, as you say, the rising star, right? So these are the categories we're looking at. The rising star, most improved. We're looking at an association. We're looking at a team of the year. And we're looking at the junior and senior male and female sports personalities of the year. So we'll have a male and female for the senior and a male and female for the junior, the team of the year, association of the year, most improved, and a rising star. And we'll we'll discuss that. We will want to hear from you as well. So if you have any nominations you want it, it's just it's our thing. You have been following the sports. You have been involved. You have been indulging in quite a bit of the sports, and we want to hear from you. What it is. So I'll put it up, the categories, and you will have the opportunity to make your recommendations, and probably tell us why you think X
That
is deserving
is the
of
right person.
sports
Yeah.
personality, Y is deserving of the national team, or Z, the National Association of the Year. Let's have some fun, folks. We'll put it up during the course of the day, and you'll have time to, give your feedback. And we'll find time to read everyone's contribution. That's our commitment. Everyone's contribution about that. We'll find time and we'll discuss it on the program come next Saturday, God's willing, from 12 o'clock. That will be Eastern time, which is 1 o'clock Eastern Caribbean time. Remember, it's our final program for the year. We take the time also to wish everyone, happy holidays, Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, because it will be not until the New Year 2024 we'll resume. We'll have the date for resumption, and we have lots to talk about. We have already had some requests for discussions, as is the case with Patricia Fakaraku, for example. We'll also be talking with the Athletes Commission. We have something with basketball. We have something with cricket. And of course, we're getting into the track and field season, so that will be something that will be ongoing and things like that. So we have a lot to talk about. While I was in Grenada, one or two people who met me and decided that they will want to be part of the program. They want to say something. Hey, you have the opportunity. Just let me know. We'll fit you in. Okay. I laughing, Toro. I thought I'm looking for Toro to put a Canadian in it, Toro already, But nevertheless, we'll get some. We'll put it on there, Toro, and you'll have your time to make your nomination and vote. You say you voted already. Yeah. One thing I know you wouldn't do. It wouldn't be West Indies, eh? It wouldn't be West Indies. Yeah. All right then. So thank you very much, Rudian, as usual. And
It definitely is a pleasure. It was a good show. And like I said, looking forward to next week, and then and stay tuned. 2024 wouldn't be like 2023. We definitely will have some good people on. We definitely will have some serious discussion, but there's a lot will be happening at the time. So, and then next week we'll also discuss the cricket, Toro, since the game should have been played already, and see how West Indies emerge, and
so we'll have
certainly,
quite a lot.
yeah,
We'll have quite a
to
lot to talk
discuss
about
next week. Yeah, yeah,
next week, right? On next week's program. Thank you very much. Thank you,
no
Rachel.
problem.
Thank you, Patricia. Thank you very much. You have been very engaging on our program this week. I think West Indies is actually playing today, yeah. So I have
Yes,
to
they are.
yeah,
Yes, they are.
I have to cut the program short to give Toro some time to support we boys. Right. So once again, thank you very much, all and sundry. Looking forward to your contribution in your continued support and contribution to our program. And certainly, I'm hoping that we'll be able to provide a bit of perspective on the development of sports in Grenada. Again, hopefully in the new year as well, we'll want to look a little more on the issue of the budget, because by that time, we'll have the presentation from the lower house as well, the upper and the lower. Well, everyone should have been completed by that. So that the senators should have would have been able to make their contributions. And in the new year, we'll be able to talk a little more about it and go in depth into some of the intricacies of the budget presentation for 2024, but keeping an eye specifically on sports. Thank you very much, folks. Thank you to all of you who have been part of the program, made some contribution some way or the other. It's always a pleasure having you on the program and looking forward to your continued contribution and support to Talk Sports, our Saturday Sports Special. Until then, I do want to wish you a pleasant weekend.